Hello everyone, once again it's me. Well, if you are preparing your project schedule, you have to allocate people, resources to do the work. Now, when you allocate people, we have to be very optimal. You should not use too many people in your project. You have to use just the right number of people in your project to complete your project within the imposed project constraints. When it comes to resource optimization, one of the technique we have is resource smoothing technique. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about resource smoothing. So let's get started. Okay, so first we'll start with the discussion why we need to do resource smoothing. Well, resource smoothing is all about using enough people in your project to complete your project within the planned or imposed due date. Your management will not be happy to provide you a lot of resources to complete your project. They might set you a limit. See, as a project manager, you need to complete your project with not more than 25 people. Initially, after planning your schedule, you might find that in some calendar weeks or in some particular days in your schedule, you might use more than 25 people in your project. So, resource optimization is all about making sure you don't exceed the limit set by the management. Alright, so resource smoothing is a good practice, and now we will understand how we do resource smoothing with a simple project schedule. So what you see here is a simple project schedule, and here we have three paths in this project: path 1, path 2 and path 3. And I've made another video on what is meant by a path, how to find out float, and what are critical paths and non-critical paths. To understand resource smoothing, this is a prerequisite. So if you're new to project scheduling topics, then I request you to watch this video. What are critical paths and how to calculate float. So the link for this video is in the description. Please watch this video and come back and continue this video. Alright. Now I assume that you already know everything about paths and float. So here we have a simple schedule. There are three paths. A path is made of sequence of activities, and the longest path in your project schedule will act as a critical path. So in this case, this is path 2, and this has 0 float. So float is the amount of schedule flexibility we have inside each path. Normally in a critical path, you will find 0 float, whereas in the other paths, that is in non-critical paths, you will find float value. So float should be calculated by taking the length of the critical path that will act as a project duration, and we have to subtract the non-critical path duration from the project duration. So in this case, the project duration will be 15 days because this is the critical path, and if you take path 1, it's of 11 days duration. So 15 minus 11, you get 4 days of float. So here you have 4 days of float, and also if you take this case, this is of 10 days duration and the project duration is of 15 days. So 15 minus 10, you get 5 days of float. Alright, that's how we calculate float. So you could see here that you have 4 days of float here and you have 5 days of float here. Now your management is saying this is your initial plan. You are proposing this plan to your management, and they're saying, well, you should not use so many people in your project. So you see this column, this is about the number of people you're going to use in your project on daily basis. So this acts as about the calendar, project calendar. We have the days. So in total you have 15 days in this project. That's the total project duration. And based on the number of headcounts you use in each task, can you see in each task, so each color you see in this line, it's a task. Okay, and HC means head count. So for example, this is task 1. It's going to go on for 3 days of duration, and we're going to use 5 headcount, 5 people to work on this task. And here, if you take task 2, this is of another 4 days duration, and you're going to use 2 headcount. So likewise, we have planned headcount, human resources for all the tasks we have in all the paths. Now we are calculating how many people we're going to use on each day based on the number of activities we're going to perform in each of the path we have in the schedule. So if you take the first day, we're going to use 23 people in the project. That is 5 people in path 1, 10 people in path 2, and 8 people in path 3. So if you add these 3 numbers, you get 23. The same with day 2. On day 3, because this task is over, you just need 15 people, 5 plus 10 on third day. So like this, we have calculated how many headcounts we will need in total to perform all the activities in all the paths concurrently on daily basis. And we found this list. All right. And you are proposing this, you are presenting this to your management. Your management is saying, see, we cannot provide you 23 people. So that's the worst case scenario. We could see that on day 1 and day 2, you're using 23 people. We cannot do this. So the limit is 20. You have to use not more than 20 people in your project and complete all the activities without exceeding the actual planned due date of this project. That is, do not take more than 15 days to complete this project. So what shall we do? We have to utilize the float. Now the question to you is, float is all about schedule flexibility. However, let's say you do not use the float. You are fully staffing people in all the tasks in the non-critical path and completing them so fast. And you're saving the float value. Can you return this to the management? What management is going to do with this written floats? They cannot do anything. So you must utilize them. So how to utilize them in a good way? By deploying or assigning less people in the activities in the non-critical paths. So if you take this case, so here I have I have modified this schedule by applying resource smoothing. You could see here that in path 1, I have used only 5 people. Originally I planned to use 10 people, but now we are using only 5 people. Okay, I reduced the number of people I allocated to perform this particular task. That's why you could see I have hatched this particular task to show that we applied resource smoothing here. Okay, but what is the side effect of this? Originally this task is planned with 10 headcount. Now I reduced it to half, right? 5. And therefore the task is going to take double the amount of time. Originally this task is planned to complete it in 2 days if you have 10 people, but now I have reduced the headcount from 10 to 5. Obviously it's going to take double the amount of time. So from 2 days, now this task is consuming 4 days of time. And so we have consumed 2 days of float we have inside this non-critical path. We originally had 4 days of float because you have reduced the number of headcount mapped or planned to this task. We consumed 2 days of float out of the 4 days available float. Now the remaining 2 days of float is available here. So 2 days gone. All right. Of course, we cannot bend the laws of physics. If you are reducing a headcount, you need more time to complete the task. Fortunately, you have float here to cover up that delay. Likewise, in this case, in path 3, I reduced the headcount of this particular task from 8 to 4. And because of this, I need more time. Instead of completing this task in 2 days, I'm going to take 4 days of time to complete this task, but that's fine because I'm going to take 2 days from the available float. Again, I'm doing the same with this particular task. So from 2 headcount, I changed this to 1 headcount. Because of this, instead of taking 2 days, I'm going to take 4 days of time. Okay. So here I have taken 2 extra days, and here I have taken additional 2 extra days. So 2 plus 2, 4 days of extra time I'm taking because I've reduced the number of people I'm using to perform these activities. And therefore, out of 5 days of float, 4 days is gone. Still I have 1 day of float. Now, if you look at the number of resources we are using per day, it has reduced to 19. So 19 is the maximum number of people you need to work in your project. Earlier it was 23. Now, as you know that the management asks you to use not more than 20 people in your project, and you have accomplished that objective without affecting the project end date. In both the cases, you're gonna complete the task, all the tasks in the project within 15 days. But here, the situation is better because you are using less people. And how this is possible? Because you are utilizing the float inside each non-critical path. And that's why if you take this case, instead of taking 23 people, you're going to use only 19 people. So how we get 19 here? 5 here, 10 here. So 15 plus 4. Earlier it was 8. Here we're going to use only 4 people. So in total 19. So if you look at the number of people used in your project after applying resource smoothing, it's no more 23. It's just 19. So this is the benefit of applying smoothing, resource smoothing. So we utilize the float and reduce the number of people we're going to use in the project. Well, that's about resource smoothing. And now if you return extra people, let's say you originally planned to use 23 people in your project. Now you say, I don't need 23 people. I just need 19 people in my resource pool. Now management will be very happy with you because they can use the extra people you didn't use in some other project, isn't it? Now, whatever you see here is about reducing the head count and utilizing the float. There is also another way to apply resource smoothing. Instead of reducing the head count, we keep the head count as it is, but we delay the start date of the activities. So here, if you see, the top one is the same. We have a schedule before applying resource smoothing, and after this, here we have the schedule after applying resource smoothing. But in this case, I didn't reduce the number of head counts I planned for each activity. They are the same, but I have delayed the start date of the activities. For example, if you take this particular activity, if you take this particular task, I'm using the same 10 head count. However, I delay the start date of this activity. So originally the task is planned to start on 8th day, but we are starting this task on 12th day. Likewise, if you take this particular task, it's supposed to start on day 1, but we are delaying the start of this task to 4th day of the project. Okay. Now you see these two areas. These are the delays I induced in beginning these two tasks. And by doing so, you are able to reduce the number of people needed in the project. Let's say your management is saying you should not use more than 15 people in your project. That's the limit they set. Now, according to your original plan, you need 23 people. That's the worst case scenario to run the project. But after resource smoothing, by delaying the start date of the activities, you could see that you just need maximum 15 people in your project to run the show. If you look at this particular day, here you need 5 people, here 10 people. So therefore 15, you are not performing any task on path 3 on the first 3 days of the project. Now if you take this particular day, you're using 2 plus 8 plus 5, again 15. All right. So you are making sure that you don't use more than 15 people in your project. So therefore, resource smoothing can be achieved in 2 ways. First way is to reduce the number of people you use in some of the activities in the non-critical paths. And second way is to delay the start date of some of the activities in the non-critical path to complete the project within limited number of resources. In both the cases, you're gonna lose the float values. Remember this. In this case, if you see, because you create a delay of 4 days to start this particular activity, the entire 4 days of float has been consumed. The same with this case, because you introduce a delay of 3 days in starting this particular task. Out of 5 days of float, we consume 3 days. Now you are left out with only 2 days. Alright, don't go beyond this, because resource smoothing is a good practice. So you should not add more delay to the schedule and extend the project duration. You cannot introduce delay in non-critical paths more than the amount of float you have in them. If so, you're gonna increase the overall project duration, and that's not good for the project. Okay, so with that we are done with how to apply resource smoothing. Now I'm gonna show you something. Well, that's about the 2 ways we use to achieve resource smoothing and benefits of resource smoothing. Now here we have a plan, and this is the original plan, and we have it in calendar weeks, not in days, and we have in total 5 paths, and path 3 found to be the critical path, and these are the number of headcounts we're going to use in these paths. So if you add up these numbers, on calendar week 1 we need 29 people to run the show, on calendar week 2 21 people, and so on. Okay, and the worst thing is in calendar week 5 we're going to use 41 people. So I created a stack up bar with this counts. So if you take calendar week 1, we're going to have in total 29 people, and this is the split: 5 plus 2 plus 10 plus 7, 5 plus 7. Okay, so in total 29. So likewise we have the bars for the remaining calendar weeks, and we found that calendar week 5 needs more people, that is 41 people. Now if you plan for this project, you need to have 41 people in your resource pool, isn't it? Because you always need to plan for the worst case scenario. You will get 41 people, but will you use them fully? No. On calendar week 5, yes, but how about calendar week 4? In calendar week 4, you just need 21 people to work in your project. And the next week, you need 41 people, almost double, right? So on calendar week 4, you may not use all the people to their full bandwidth. So you're gonna do underutilization of resources. And that's why your management would say to you that don't use 41 people, use the float you have inside your schedule and reduce the number of people to some number, maybe to 30. Okay, don't use more than 30 people in your project, or you by yourself optimizing your plan and proposing to your management, this is my original schedule, but now I'm going to use not more than 30 people, 31 people in my project. So you did the same, like you either reduce the number of people allocated to activities in the non-critical path, or you delay the start date of some of the activities in the non-critical path. By doing so, you are consuming the float, but you are using less people in your project. So we did that. In this column, you could see the number of days of float you have in each path. Now, after applying the resource smoothing, I'm reducing number of headcounts in each case. For example, here in calendar week 5 on path 1, I'm using 10 people. I'm reducing it to 5. Okay, and by doing so, I'm utilizing the available float. Originally, we had 15 days of float. Now, because I'm applying resource smoothing, I'm reducing the number of headcount planned for in each path for every calendar week. It's gonna cost a delay, and by doing so, I lost 8 days of float. So from 15, I have only 7 days of float left out in this particular path. So likewise, you could see we lost some amount of float in each case in path 2, path 4, and path 5 after applying resource smoothing. But fortunately, if you look at the total number of headcount we use in each calendar week, it is found that in calendar week 5 we use maximum 32 people. And if you look at all the calendar weeks, we are pretty much close to 30, right? You could see here. Now this bar chart indicates we use round about 30 people in the project across the project duration. But when you think about the original plan, you could see a lot of peaks and valleys, right? It's very bumpy, isn't it? So this one is something we prefer. Okay, let me show you something. So if you look at this picture, this is the first. It's very bumpy and this is not at all good. It's not a good plan in terms of resource utilization. Now, if you look at the bar chart after applying resource smoothing, it's pretty much even, right? We are very close to 30. Of course, we have a particular calendar week where you use less people, but this is an exception, okay? But if you look at the big picture, in general, we are not using not more than 30 people. You're going to have 30 people in your project, in your resource pool, and you're going to use them, pretty much all of them, in all the calendar weeks. And in this case, you need 41 people and keep them in your project. Some calendar weeks you use them to the fullest. For example, in calendar week 3 and calendar week 5, use them to the fullest. All of them will be busy, but how about calendar week 2, calendar week 4, calendar week 8, 7? We don't use most of them, 30 to 50% of your resources. And therefore, resource smoothing will help us to have minimum number of people in your project. Still, you can complete all the activities within the planned duration, but you need to compromise on the float. You give up the float to use less people in your project, and you're not going to affect the project end date because you do nothing to the activities in the critical path. It's intact. If you notice here, in both the cases, before and after applying the resource leveling, we don't touch number of people used in activities in the critical path, or we don't delay the start date of any activity in the critical path. Do not touch anything inside the critical path. It should be intact. Otherwise, you're gonna create a delay in your project. Alright, now you are clear with what is meant by resource smoothing, how to apply resource smoothing, and how it's gonna benefit the projects. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and please let me know your comments below. Also, you can subscribe to my channel. I regularly come up with high quality project management learning videos and post them on my YouTube channel. You can learn a lot of interesting project management concepts at ease. So please go for it. Please subscribe to my channel. And one more thing, if you have any plans to do PMP certification, at GAN Scholar we offer excellent project management training for a very affordable pricing. And the best part is the first 2 days of the training, that is the first 10 hours of the training, is for no cost. You can enroll in the training and enjoy the first 2 days of training. And if you find the training helpful and effective, you can continue with us. I've provided a link for registering in our bootcamp, PMP bootcamp, in the description. So please check this link and register yourself if you are interested to take PMP certification. With that, we are done with this video. I have many other useful videos on my YouTube channel, so please check them and watch them if needed. I'll meet you again with another interesting video. Till then, goodbye. Take care.